My journey to hell ended with that baseball bat smashing my skull like lightning, then nothing. My parents, never home, left me to my old nanny Viola, who really loved me and read me Robin Hood at bedtime. Normal kids want to be famous footballers, but with Robin Hood 7 days a week, I just wanted to grow up quick and rob the rich. One day drunk, my mother threw Viola out, and watching her taxi drive away, I felt fear, especially alone at night. All the millions I was to steal never took away that fear. I was victimised at school, then a taller boy, Raymond, stopped the bullies. Best friends after school every day, we went bowling and to youth clubs. That summer in Brighton, as two innocent teenagers, we made plans for the rest of our lives together. Late back, Raymond's father banned us from ever seeing each other again. That bastard opened the gates of hell, and in revenge I smashed his front window. With Raymond gone, like a crazed, wounded animal, I snatched a woman's handbag. If you steal a handbag or millions of pounds, plan it right. Any mug can steal, it's not getting caught. I learnt that for the first and last time. To save the family reputation, my father bribed the magistrate to send me for medical reports. I was taken to an asylum and dragged down a long corridor, where a perverted doctor molested me, but it got worse. He gave me my first amphetamine pill. I was addicted to the buzz, and over the next 20 years took over 500,000 tablets. One night the pervert wanted me to whip him, and with him padlocked to the bed I stole 200 pills, shared them with the other patients, and we wrecked the ward. To avoid a scandal, the authorities released me. Now 15 years old, I ran away from home, and in a pub in Soho I met Gentleman George, the legendary jewel thief, and begged him to teach me to steal diamonds. In the blink of an eye, I was on a rooftop, climbing into a penthouse where George opened the safe. Savile Row suits, handmade shoes, a champagne lifestyle. For the next 3 years, I was George's apprentice jewel thief. At 18 years old, I left George for the world of organised crime and Lenny Martin, who ran a construction company as a front for laundering money. Lenny's receptionist was Carmen, a stunning Maltese girl. My first job was with Cowley, a psychopathic lunatic, hanging a man out a window to collect a debt for the Krays, London's most feared gangsters. Lenny introduced me to Les, and I became the getaway driver on an audacious robbery. High on drugs, I was too stoned to realise what was really happening. In love with Carmen, I flew to Malta, where her widowed mother and 4 kid sisters all lived in one room. Carmen discovered she was pregnant and we got married. Before leaving, I bought her mother a luxury flat overlooking the sea. Back in England, the drugs exploded, and at an all-night party I missed our daughter Tanya's birth. Robberies, suitcases of cash. Carmen had everything money could buy, but as my addiction worsened, the marriage deteriorated. The final straw was Tanya's 5th birthday, when French drug dealers ran. "Leave the party and I'll take Tanya to live in Malta," screamed Carmen. On that boat, I bought 100,000 amphetamine tablets. Carmen in Malta was now drinking and drugging 24/7. One night I rescued a gay, prominent city banker, Addict, who was being hassled, and became his minder. Here was a man who could sign cheques for millions, madly in love with me, at my mercy. At Alec's Mayfair home I met his 100-year-old mother, who privately warned me not to hurt her precious son. Out of my head on pills, I told Lenny everything, and in came the mafia to blackmail Alec to cash £10 million worth of forged bonds. Carmen, pregnant, agreed if I bought her a big house she'd come back to live in England. While I was bonding with Tanya building Wendy houses, Les was planning London's biggest ever wage snatch. And the mafia, they were pressuring me to blackmail Alec. With our second child due any day, the phone rang. Carmen's mother had died. I flew alone to Malta to rescue Carmen's sisters and gave their mother a funeral fit for a queen. Arriving back in England with Carmen's sisters, Les and the robbers were waiting outside the house. It was robbery day. I drove like never before down one-way streets, chasing police cars, and up into a removal van, which drove us to the safety of the countryside where the evidence went up in smoke. I'd earned £100,000, but missed the birth of our second child. Arriving home with Carmen and the new baby, the mafia were waiting. They gave me 1 week to get the bonds signed. Next day, I went to Alec's country mansion. Alec's mother sent something and spoke to me alone. Alec loves you, and true love is worth dying for. In that old lady's face, I saw Violet and decided, even if the mafia killed me, I would never betray Alec. Back home, Carmen had left a note. She had gone for good. Alone and paranoid, the drugs were sending me mad. I meticulously buried boxes of stolen cash in cemeteries around London. Returning home, I found a removal van loading furniture. I hid in the van to find out where Carmen had gone. I found her living with another man. My daughter Tanya wanted to come and live with me. With forged references, I rigged a case to win custody of an innocent child. With the mafia looking for me, we lived in a poor area on the other side of London. Inevitably, the drugs exploded and Tanya became my nurse. One day I passed out and the authorities returned Tanya to her mother. I boarded up the doors and windows, and for 6 months never went out, surviving on tinned food. I took drugs day and night. I was now mad, close to total insanity, talking to imaginary people. Drugged, I set fire to the building, reducing it to ashes. Very damaged, I now live for over 5 years in shop doorways, park benches, eating from dustbins. I finished up in cardboard city, where my new neighbours were winos, huddled together at night in cardboard boxes. One night, a gang of drunken skinheads set fire to everything and killed several tramps. An ambulance took me to Phoenix House, a rehabilitation drug hospital where I was admitted. After 5 years on the streets, I just grunted and didn't talk in therapy. But eventually I did, and a year later, off drinking drugs, was team leader when disaster struck. I was arrested. Some busybody flying squad officer believed my living rough was an act to avoid being caught. At Scotland Yard, photographs of the past brought back my memory, and I changed from a recovering addict to the old know-it-all Jack the Lad. Lenny Martin was shot dead and the case was closed. Back at Phoenix House, the psychological damage was done. I rejected the other addicts as small-time idiots, ran away, but when I couldn't find the buried cash, snatched the woman's bag, bought drugs, and was on the road to hell. When destiny changed my life, I met a German student in the park and we started talking. I fell asleep with my head on her lap. When I woke, she'd gone but stuffed her German address in my pocket. I was in love with hope for the future. Queuing outside a homeless mission for a free bed, a car screeched up. The driver stared. That night, in the dormitory, I paid my long overdue price for a life on the edge. The mafia smashed my skull with a baseball bat, leaving me for dead. I regained consciousness in hospital and a week later crept out the building. Hitchhiked a lift to Dover, sneaked on board the ferry, and hiding on trains reached the outskirts of Munich. Staggering towards Honey Laurie's village, I sheltered, collapsing in a snow shed. Half dead in the dark, I saw my old nanny Violet's image. Her words changed my life. You have found true love. Throw away your drugs and start living. That was my moment of clarity. I never took a drug again. Next morning, I staggered to Honey Laurie's house, where she hugged me. I was taken to Grossharden Hospital, where a 10-hour microscopic operation put a metal plate to bring my skull back together. Honey Laurie and I got married, and today our sons, Oliver and Julian, are in their 30s. I am Stephen Smith. That was my life, a wasted life. Who knows what I could have become? A barrister, a politician. I'm 72 years old today and would like to leave a legacy on film that crime doesn't pay and the true horror of addiction. My book has that legacy, but kids today can't or don't read. Thank you for your time, and I hope to meet you. God bless you. I've never been to Russia, so I can't talk about Moscow, but I can talk about what it's like to sleep with the bed up against the bedroom door, to be looking over your shoulder all the time, to wake up in the middle of the night every night in fear, white fear. And that's just the crime. Drugs? That's the real hell on earth. Let's show the kids which cul-de-sac not to go down and which roller coaster ride not to get on.